What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be going over some press releases that will cook any DB. So we're going to be talking about the exact technique of each release, and then we're going to be showing a full speed example of that release versus the specific coverage you'd use it against. So I hope I was able to help you out. Let's get started. So this first release we're going to be going over, you guys, is going to be something called a punch crossover release. So you'd want to use this when you have a DB lined up probably about inside shade 2 to 3 yards away. So this orange cone is going to represent the line of scrimmage, and then the blue cone in all these examples is going to represent where the DB is. So if he's inside shade 2 to 3 yards away, anytime I'm coming up with the press release as a wide receiver, I want to think about two things when I come up to the line of scrimmage. And these releases should already be pre-planned in your head when you are entering a game, 1-on-1, 7-on-7. You got to have releases that you like already ready to go. So when you see that coverage look, bam, it's one breath, one thought, you can execute the release. So it's inside shade 2 to 3. The two things we look for, leverage and distance. So was he inside shade? Is he head up? Is he outside shade? How close or how far away is he? Is he right up on the line? Is he 2 to 3 off? Is he 5 yards away? That's how I come up with the release that I like. So if he's 2 to 3 yards away and inside shade, let's say, for example, I have to run a route like just a simple corner route, right? I don't want to just try to run away from him because he's inside shade, or I should say this, he's off 2 to 3 for that specific reason. He wants us to just take off so he could get hands and catch us, if you will, and reroute us to the sideline, reroute us to the inside if he were to be outside leverage. So what we got to do is we got to bring the line of scrimmage to him. We have to close the space and then attack his leverage. The best way to get a DB to move, to bite on our release, is make him think we are going where he doesn't want us to go, which is in this case to the inside because that's his leverage. So that's why we got no leverage. That's why we got to go distance. So how does this release work? This release starts with your back foot. That's the punch step, if you will. Remember, this is called a punch crossover release, and we're going to show a full speed example of this in a second. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your back foot and bring it up to where your toes are even with your front heel, and you're going to step and you're going to push off of this foot and then reach with your left foot, and that's what you are using to close the space. Now when you reach and punch, or when you punch then reach, you come to balance and then you hit him with a crossover. So a crossover is where you step in the direction you are going first. It's like a simple crossover off the line. 1-2. So what you're doing is your punch, reach, 1-2 to attack his leverage. Now we close the space and we get right past his hip and up into this route. So again, first step of this, it has to be violent. You bring the toes even with your front heel, punch, reach, and then hit the crossover. So we're going to show you how this should look full speed. Now, before we show that example full speed, you guys, if you are a quarterback or wide receiver watching this video and you'd like to train with myself and my staff of coaches, we are going to be traveling out to 5 more cities across the entire U.S. for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camps this offseason. So guys, if you'd like to sign up, go to that very first link in the description below. That is where all the information is. Next up on our camp tour, we'll be coming out to Houston, Texas. Then we'll be heading out to Boston, Massachusetts, Columbus, Ohio, Boise, Idaho, and finishing off our camp tour in Los Angeles, California. So guys, our Columbus camp and our Houston camp are completely sold out, so we only have availability in our Boise, Boston, and Los Angeles camps. So guys, if you're local to one of those cities and you've been putting it off, you want to sign up, go to that very first link in the description below. We only have about 2 to 3 more spots remaining in each one of those camps, so they will sell out probably within the next 1 to 2 weeks. So guys, very first link in that description below. We'd love to have you out there. Let's get back to this video. Now, fellas, this next release we're going to be going over is something called a slide crossover release, but it's going to be an outside-in crossover release. Some of you have probably seen the slide inside-out crossover that you would use on like a slant route. You would use this specifically, I would say, on a fade route. You could use it on a slot fade or a fade from the outside or even a fade while you are in the red zone. But it's just a way to kind of hold that DB's leverage to the inside and build off of other releases. So we use this when he's inside shade press, maybe a yard away or right up on the line of scrimmage. So the first step of this release, and we're going to show a full speed example obviously, is going to be with your left foot. You're going to take a jab step. If you are more comfortable with a kick step with your back foot, you could use that as well on this release. Me personally, I'm just a little bit more comfortable with a jab step to get me into the slide. So you almost want to think there's like a platform. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that show like Ninja Warrior, where they have like water and they have platforms on each side and you got to jump from side to side. That's how you want to think of your front foot. You want to think of it like you're pushing into the slide. So what we're doing is we're going to take a jab jab step, pushing off the middle arch of your foot, and you are going to reach with your right foot and drag the left foot. Probably the only time I'm okay with receivers dragging their feet. So it's going to be jab, slide, and reach. Then we're coming to bounce. Just like the punch crossover release is just a little bit different. It's the opposite way. Then we're going to step in the direction I want to go first. I want to go outside, so I'm going right, left to try to make him think that I'm doing a slant, and then I'm going. The reason why this works is because a lot of times what DBs are trained to think is when wide receivers slide to the outside, they want to run a slant. They're trying to attack the DB's outside shoulder and hip to get him to open to cut back underneath. So maybe if that's a release you like to use, maybe that's a release you have in your arsenal, you could use this just going the opposite way. So it's going to be just a jab, slide. Make sure when we slide, guys, we're going on a 45-degree angle to threaten the DB, and that's 1, 2, threaten back to the inside. So we're going to show you how this should look full speed. Now, this next release, you guys, is going to be something called a kick step wide step release. So you might refer to this as a jab step release, but I love using a kick step on this to help us step outside of the DB's frame and really get a little bit more speed and explosiveness to the move. So whenever a DB is in press man-to-man coverage, and we want to use this release when the DB is in head-up press, right in front of me, and I want to take an inside release. Remember, if he's in head-up press, he could stay head-up, shade to the inside, shade to the outside. He's got a couple different things that he's trying to do, but if he's just playing his head up, you want to release to the side of the route break. So if I'm running a post route, a dig route, that's an inside breaking route, so I want to try to get an inside release if I can. If he's head up press, he's giving me a release outside or inside. Could he change it up? Yes, and we'll talk about that in a second. But this is to get him to jump to the outside so you could take that inside release. So the kick step is like what we mentioned on that slide release in the last example, where you take this back foot and you kick behind your front foot. Not a real big step, and it's not a real slow step. It's like pretend there's a bug somewhere like slightly behind your front foot in your stance. You're trying to step on the bug. But when you do that and you step like this, you are loading up your hips. So when you decide to take this jab step to the outside with your back foot, it allows you to throw your hip more, because when a DB's in man coverage, like we said, he's watching my hip. So if my hip can go all the way with my foot and I am stepping outside of this DB's frame, he has to honor that, you guys. The DB has a choice to make in press. Does he stay or does he go? And he goes based on where my foot placement is and where my body goes. Now, a lot of guys will do this, but their hips don't actually move. Some people say don't use the kick step because it's a false step. It's a part of the release. If you just go like this and step and your hips don't really go with the foot, DB's just gonna sit. You want that DB to go, bring your hip with the foot. Could you, in theory, do that without the kick step? Yes, you probably could, but I feel the kick step is a way to make it faster, and it's a way to build off of a speed release. Because sometimes what a lot of guys do, like if you're just faster than the DB, a speed release is where you just come off the ball and just go, right? And you could do a speed release off a kick step. You kick and then just take off and go, right? So you could build off of that. Maybe your job one time on a play is your backside and your job is just to run the DB off. You do that speed release with the kick step. Now I got to run a post. I'm a first or a second read on the play. I want to get him to jump to the outside. It's got to look the same. I'm here. Put the brakes on, DB jumps, and I take that inside release. You could use this when he's head up, or you could use this if he's outside leverage or outside shade press. It's a way to attack his leverage to move him, so I get right past his hip and get skinny into the break point. So we're gonna show you how this release should look full speed. Next release we're going to discuss, fellas, is going to be 2 releases worked into one to get a DB to open up his hips on a slant route when he is inside shade press. So that's the toughest, like I guess you could say, slant to run. You're lined up right here. DB is where the blue cone is. He's inside leverage, and I got to run a slant. So I can't run it like how I would run like a post route. If a post route is at 10 to 12, normally what I could do is I could attack his leverage, outside release. He's right on my hip. I could swat him by and cut under, or I could work to stack him where I'm over the top of him and give him a move at the top of the break. Now, if I have to run a slant, I don't got that kind of time because it's a 3-step slant. But the easier way to get this DB to open up his hips is make your slant route release look exactly like a fade route release. So if your fade route release, a release you could use on a fade, is something called a slide and go. It builds off of that slide crossover that we did. So what you could do is you could slide, DB's holding to the inside expecting the slant, and then just beat him with speed. Now, you could use that on a slant. So we're going to combine a slide release and something called a diamond release. So a diamond release normally inside shade press is where you take 3 steps, 1, 2, 3, put the brakes on, you're running at his outside shoulder and outside hip. The goal is to self-fade, to get him to think we're going fade so I could swat and cut back underneath him. So a way to get him to open up is if you make it look like that initial fade release that you do. You're kind of adding a little sauce to this release. So you come off the ball, you slide, 1, 2, 3, brakes on, and cut back underneath. Now, some people might say that takes a little bit long. You just gotta make sure that your slide is urgent. We're not too slow with the slide. It's the same tempo as we normally do, but we're not wasting time. So we're gonna show you how that release should look full speed. Great release you can use, and you have to run a 3-step slant versus inside shade press. Now fellas, before we show you that slide diamond release, if you're a receiver and you guys would like a 2-month-long summer workout schedule that you can follow for the gym and for the field, check out that second link in the description below for our Elite Wide Receiver Training Package. It's 2 months of daily workouts for receivers. We obviously include rest days as well, but we give you exactly what you should be doing in the gym and on the field to make you a better route runner, better releases, better hands, just a general more athletic wide receiver. We give you video examples of each drill and exercise, and we give you the exact sets and reps to follow and a weekly schedule. Like Monday you're doing this, Tuesday you're doing that. Everything is mapped out exactly how I would train my athletes in person that I work with. So guys, if you want some more information, go to that second link in the description below. That's where you can sign up. Let's get back to this video.